The world felt completely silent, muffled by a thick blanket of freshly fallen snow. In this small Nebraska town, the sun was still just a rumor, a faint glow hidden behind a stubborn morning fog. The only movement on these deserted streets was a small, determined figure. 12-year-old Ethan Miller, his breath puffing out in white clouds, walked as fast as his winter boots would allow. His backpack, heavy with books and forgotten homework, bumped against his shoulders with every hurried step. A knot of worry tightened in his stomach. He'd overslept. His alarm, usually so reliable, had failed him this morning. Now, the quiet that normally felt peaceful seemed ominous, a sign that he was too late. He pictured the big yellow bus, its lights flashing, pulling away from the corner without him. He imagined his friends, laughing and talking, not even noticing his empty seat. The thought made his pace quicken, his boots crunching a frantic rhythm into the pristine snow. He rounded the corner onto Main Street, his eyes scanning desperately for any sign of the bus. Nothing. The street was empty, the storefront still dark. A wave of disappointment washed over him. He'd missed it. He was sure of it. Now he'd have to make the long, cold walk all the way to school, and he'd definitely be late. He could already hear his teacher's sigh fill the stares of his classmates. Slowing his pace, defeated, he trudged forward, his gaze fixed on the snow-covered sidewalk. But then a familiar sound cut through the silence, a low rumble growing steadily louder. He looked up, his heart giving a hopeful leap. There it was, turning the far corner, its yellow frame a beacon in the gray morning. The bus, its headlights cut through the fog like two friendly eyes. A huge grin spread across Ethan's face, chasing away all the worry. He wasn't too late after all. He broke into a run, waving his arms wildly. The bus slowed, its red lights flashing just for him, and the door hissed open in a warm, welcoming invitation. As he stepped aboard, the driver gave him a friendly nod. The quiet of the snowy town was replaced by the familiar buzz of his friends' voices. He had made it. The day was saved. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this little story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you next time. The wind howled, a relentless, biting force that drove snow across the landscape in horizontal sheets. Ethan pulled the collar of his thick coat tighter around his neck, the icy air stinging his cheeks. He'd been walking for what felt like hours, the familiar path to the old railroad bridge, now almost erased by the swirling white. Everything was monochrome, a world of gray skies and white ground, the skeletal trees stark against the pale horizon. Each step was a conscious effort, his boots sinking into the fresh powder with a soft crunch. The bridge was just ahead, its steel frame a dark, skeletal silhouette against the blizzard. It was a landmark he knew by heart, a shortcut he'd taken 1,000 times. But today, something felt different. The silence, usually so peaceful out here, was heavy, punctuated only by the mournful cry of the wind. As he drew closer, his gaze fixed on the tracks leading onto the bridge. The snow was thinner there, swept away by the gusts that funneled between the steel girders. And that's when he saw it, a shape, something that didn't belong. It was dark, angular, and partially buried in a drift right between the rails. His steps slowed. It wasn't a branch or a rock, it looked metallic. Curiosity piqued, he trudged forward, his eyes narrowed against the blowing snow. As he got within a few yards, the form became clearer. It was a sheet of metal, thick and heavy-looking, folded over on itself as if it had been crumpled by an immense force. One edge was jagged, sheared clean. It was wedged tight against the rail, a stubborn, unnatural obstacle in this desolate landscape. He stopped, a strange feeling creeping over him. How did it get here? There were no roads nearby, no factories. It was just wilderness and an old, seldom used railway line. The metal looked out of place, almost alien in the pristine snow. He scanned the area, looking for any other signs of disturbance, but there was nothing. Just the endless white, the skeletal bridge, and this bizarre, folded piece of metal stubbornly stuck on the tracks. A shiver ran down his spine, and it had nothing to do with the cold. What was this thing, and why was it here? The distant wail of a train horn sliced through the quiet afternoon, a mournful sound that echoed off the steel rails stretching into the horizon. I stood there, frozen, my gaze fixed on the endless twin lines disappearing into the haze. It was a sound I'd heard 1,000 times before, a familiar rhythm of this small town, but today it was different. Today it was a countdown. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the rising crescendo of the approaching engine. Fear, cold and sharp, coiled in my stomach. I could feel the vibration under my feet, a low thrum that grew stronger with every passing second. The train was close, too close. My mind raced, flashing images of what could happen. Twisted metal, splintered wood, the horrific screech of steel grinding against steel. A derailment. Here, the thought was a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. The lives on that train, oblivious to the danger lurking just ahead, flashed before my eyes. Families, students, people just going about their day. But then something else stirred within me, a flicker of defiance against the paralyzing fear. No, not today, not here. Not while I was standing right here. That flicker grew into a blaze of determination. My fists clenched at my sides, knuckles white. The fear was still there, a roaring beast in my ears, but now it had a partner, resolve. I wasn't just a bystander. I was the first line of defense. The horn blared again, louder this time, a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very ground. I took a deep breath, the metallic scent of the tracks filling my lungs. My choice was made. I had to do something. I had to try. My feet, which had felt rooted to the spot, finally moved. One step, then another, breaking into a desperate sprint along the gravel beside the tracks. The world narrowed to just the rails, the sound, and the single burning thought, I have to stop it. The biting wind howled, a relentless assault of ice and fury, but it was nothing compared to the storm raging inside him. Ethan knelt in the deepening snow, his small body a stark silhouette against the vast, unforgiving white. His gloved hands, though numb with cold, gripped the edge of a heavy metal sheet. It was a fragment of the wreckage, a twisted piece of what was once a life. He pulled, his muscles screaming in protest, the sheer weight a monstrous anchor holding him to this frozen hell. The blizzard fought him at every turn, stinging his exposed face and trying to steal the very breath from his lungs. Snowflakes, sharp as tiny daggers, blurred his vision. He blinked them away, his gaze fixed on a single faint point of light in the distance. The train. It was still there, a distant beacon of hope, or perhaps a taunting reminder of how far he had to go. He couldn't see the details, only its hazy glow cutting through the swirling snow, a promise of warmth and safety that felt 1,000,000 miles away. Again he heaved. His knuckles were white, the fabric of his gloves straining against the cold, unyielding metal. Every fiber of his being was focused on this one impossible task. Lifting this sheet was more than just a physical struggle. It was a battle against despair. He could feel the frost seeping into his bones, the exhaustion trying to drag him down into the numbing embrace of the snow, but he couldn't stop. He wouldn't. That distant light, that faint glimmer in the heart of the storm was his reason. With a final, desperate roar that was swallowed by the wind, he leveraged all his weight. The sheet groaned, then scraped against the frozen ground, moving just an inch. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was a victory. His breath came in ragged, painful gasps, each one a cloud of white in the frigid air. He repositioned his grip, his jaw set in grim determination. The snow kept falling, the wind kept screaming, but for the first time, Ethan felt a flicker of warmth ignite within him. It was the fire of defiance. He would not be broken. He would not be buried. He would get up, he would move this mountain of steel, and he would walk toward that light. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by this story, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video. The wind howls, a bitter, biting cold that cuts right through you. Snow isn't falling anymore. It's a blizzard, a swirling white chaos that blinds everything. But through the chaos, I see it, a glint of steel on the tracks ahead. It's huge, a massive sheet of corrugated metal, probably ripped from a nearby roof by the storm. And then I hear it, a low rumble that vibrates through the solace of my boots, growing louder, more insistent with every passing second. The train. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the roar of the wind and the approaching engine. There's no time. No time to think. No time to weigh options. There are hundreds of people on that train, oblivious, warm, heading home. They have no idea that disaster is just a few hundred yards down the track. My legs are moving before my brain even catches up, churning through the deep snow, each step a monumental effort. The cold air sears my lungs, and every breath is a ragged gasp. I finally reach the metal sheet, my fingers numb and clumsy as I grab the frozen edge. It's heavier than I could have imagined, anchored by ice and snow. I plant my feet, digging my heels into the frozen ground, and push. Nothing. It doesn't budge. Panic, cold and sharp, lances through me. The train's horn blares, a deafening, desperate shriek that echoes off the mountains. Its headlamp cuts a bright, terrifying path through the blizzard, and for a split second, I'm frozen, a deer in the headlights of an oncoming iron beast. Fear gives way to adrenaline. A raw, primal scream tears from my throat, lost in the storm. I have to move it. I throw my entire body weight into it again, my muscles screaming in protest. Sweat beads on my forehead, instantly freezing in the Arctic air. The metal groans, scraping against the rail. It's moving. Just an inch, but it's an inch of hope. I push again and again, my vision blurring. The ground is shaking violently now. The train is right here. With one final desperate shove, the sheet gives way, sliding down the embankment just as the locomotive thunders past. Its massive wheels missing me by what feels like a hair's breadth. The roar is deafening, a whirlwind of snow and steel. And then silence, save for the wind and the sound of my own gasping breath. It's over. They're safe. The roar of the engine, the shriek of metal on metal. It's a sound that will echo in my ears forever. Just moments ago, this track was a death trap, buried under a mountain of snow and ice from a sudden avalanche. I was on the last inspection run before the express was due, and then the world just fell apart. White chaos, a crushing silence, and the chilling realization that hundreds of lives were on a collision course with disaster. My radio was dead. No signal, no way to call for help. The nearest town was miles away, and time was a luxury I didn't have. There was only one option, one desperate, back-breaking choice. Clear the track myself. With just a shovel and sheer adrenaline, I started digging. My lungs burned from the freezing air. My muscles screamed with every scoop, but the image of that train, filled with unsuspecting families, kept me going. Each shovelful of snow felt like lifting a boulder. My hands went numb, my vision blurred, but I couldn't stop. I dug until I thought my heart would burst. Then I heard it. A faint rumble in the distance, growing louder, closer. The ground began to vibrate beneath my feet. Panic set in. I wasn't going to make it. I dug faster, harder, fueled by a terror I've never known. Just as the train's light cut through the gloom, I heaved the last of the debris aside. The track was clear. I threw myself into the snowbank as the locomotive thundered past, a whirlwind of steel and sparks, its horn blasting a triumphant cry into the night. It missed me by inches. The wind it created was like a physical blow, and the snow it kicked up stung my face, and then silence. The red lights of the last car faded into the darkness. They made it. They were safe. The strength that had carried me for hours evaporated in an instant, and my legs just gave out. I collapsed right here into the soft, cold snow. I'm exhausted, I'm freezing, but I'm alive. And more importantly, so are they. It's funny, in the quiet of this frozen landscape, all I can feel is the warmth of relief. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more incredible stories. The train screeches to a halt, the sound echoing through the stunned silence of the crowd. And then everything happens at once. The engineer, a man with lines of stress etched onto his face, jumps down from the cabin. He's not angry. He's in awe. He rushes towards Ethan, his hand outstretched, his voice thick with emotion. "You're a hero, kid. You saved them," he says, shaking Ethan's hand vigorously. The local police chief is right behind him, his stern demeanor replaced with a look of profound respect. He claps Ethan on the shoulder, a firm, reassuring gesture. "Son, what you did back there, that was extraordinary." Ethan just stands there, completely bewildered. He looks down at his hands, then back at the faces surrounding him. The engineer, the police chief, the paramedics who are now tending to the family, all of them are looking at him with this incredible mix of gratitude and admiration. He can't quite process it. Just moments ago, he was just a guy walking home. Now he's a hero. The word feels too big, too heavy for his shoulders. He just shakes his head slightly, a humble, almost shy smile playing on his lips. He didn't think. He just acted. That's all. Suddenly, flashes of light start popping all around him. News vans have arrived, their logos bright against the evening sky. Reporters are pushing forward, microphones extended, cameras capturing his every expression. They're all shouting his name, "Ethan, Ethan, over here." How do you feel? The lights are blinding, the noise is overwhelming. In the midst of this whirlwind of chaos and praise, the cameras zoom in on Ethan's face. He's not basking in the glory. He looks stunned, humbled, almost lost. His eyes dart around, searching for a familiar face, trying to make sense of this surreal moment. This wasn't for fame. It was for a family he didn't even know. And in that quiet, shocked expression, the world sees the true measure of a hero. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible real-life stories. We'll see you next time. Have you ever faced a moment that tested everything you thought you were? A split second where instinct takes over and your world changes forever. For Ethan, that moment came on a frigid winter afternoon, with snow blanketing the ground in a quiet, deceptive peace. He was just walking home like any other day when he heard a terrifying sound. A crunch, a crack, and then a scream that cut through the silent air. A child had fallen through the ice on the local pond. In that instant, there was no time for debate, no time to weigh the risks. He saw a small red jacket disappearing into the dark, churning water. The scene was surreal, the kind of thing you only see in movies, but this was real. The cold was real. The danger was real. And the life hanging in the balance was heartbreakingly real. Other people were frozen in place, pulling out their phones, shouting, but no one was moving toward the water. The seconds felt like hours. Ethan didn't hesitate. He later told us, his voice still trembling with the memory, "I didn't think. I just knew someone could die. So I ran." He threw off his heavy coat and scrambled toward the hole in the ice, his heart pounding in his chest. The ice was treacherous, groaning under his weight, but his focus was singular, the child. He knew the protocol: distribute your weight, crawl, don't walk. He lay flat on his stomach, inching his way forward, the freezing cold seeping through his clothes, biting at his skin. He reached the edge of the broken ice and extended his hand. The child was panicking, flailing, their small hands too numb to get a good grip. Ethan kept his voice calm, reassuring, telling the little boy he was going to be okay, that he just needed to grab on. After what felt like an eternity, their hands connected. With a surge of adrenaline, Ethan pulled. He pulled with every ounce of strength he had, dragging the shivering, soaked child out of the icy water and back onto the solid surface. He wrapped the boy in his own discarded jacket and carried him to the shore, where help was finally arriving. In the aftermath, as paramedics took over, Ethan stood by, shivering not just from the cold, but from the sheer intensity of what had just happened. He wasn't a trained rescuer. He wasn't a superhero. He was just an ordinary person who, when faced with an extraordinary choice, chose courage. He chose action. He chose humanity. Looking back, with snow falling softly in the background, Ethan's words hang in the air, a powerful testament to the hero that lives within us all. I didn't think. I just knew someone could die. So I ran. It's a reminder that in our darkest moments, the simplest act of running toward danger instead of away from it can make all the difference. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more stories of everyday heroism.